change. They want me to change, but I ain't changing. Nah, I remain the same.
And you are now tuned into another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you in conjunction with A Beautiful Machine magazine, as well as the mighty Nerd DJs Radio Network. You already know, every minute, every hour, every second of the year, we only rock with legends around here. And today is absolutely no exception. We got one of the dopest musicians since the first guitar string. I'm saying the most rock and roll since rock and roll was first played in the first stage. We got Nicholas Thomasma of the Michigan Music Alliance, the executive director. Only the real OGs in the building. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for that powerful introduction there.
Oh man, I'll be working on it, man. So it's a whole thing over here now. You know, it's an expectation.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're doing over there, Intellectually Petty Radio. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, no doubt, man. How's life? How's your family?
The family is good. Of course, we're coming up into the holiday season, so I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and watching some football.
What part of Michigan are you from?
I live in Grand Rapids.
Oh, Grand Rapids. I once knew a lady from Grand Rapids. Very nice.
It's a great spot, man, and we've got a wonderful music community here, and lots of art and entertainment things to do. So it's a great place to be from. I was fortunate enough to just be born here.
So when was the first time you picked up an instrument, and which one was it?
Well, I'm a vocalist primarily, right? I've been singing since I was like a little kid. I mean, I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't sing. So, first we sang in the car and we sang in the choir and through school and stuff. But I started playing guitar when I was like 19 or 20 because I had gotten to a point where I was like, all right, man, I think if you want to sing, then maybe you should play an instrument, and guitar just seemed like the thing that it was kind of calling to me. So I play a little bit of piano and a little bit of harmonica and ukulele and mandolin, but primarily I play guitar and sing and then write songs as well.
At what point do you say, I want to learn how to play a ukulele?
The ukulele is a wonderful instrument. Let me just say that. What happened is I had a girlfriend and she had a ukulele. And so I kind of picked it up and started playing it. And I was like, oh, this is like kind of like a guitar, but like not as many strings and much smaller. And so I just kind of started strumming one, and then my parents got me a ukulele for Christmas one year. So
when you're writing a song, first off, do you have a particular style? Like, are you more in the ballads? Are you more in the rock? Are you more in is there a particular lane that you feel stronger in?
Not really. And that's one of the things I love about being a songwriter is that I like to like let the songs kind of dictate what they want to be. So, if you go out and listen to my recorded music, it falls in the Americana, like folk rock. So, I play acoustic guitar, but also I like my sound to have a full band. So there's electric guitars and drums and bass and all that stuff is included in the recordings. And like we, as a band or as musicians, we kind of take the song, which is, I write the songs on acoustic guitar, and then I take them to the band and we kind of turn them into whatever it is that they were meant to be from the beginning. So like, for example, I got a song called Fancy Pants. And when I wrote the song, I knew for sure, like, this has to have like a kind of like a disco funk vibe to it. It just has to. Okay. And then I brought it in the recording studio and we demoed it out with the acoustic guitar, and the band is kind of listening to it like, yeah, I'm not really so sure about this one. I'm like, all right, but listen, let's think about it like it's a funk song. And they're like, yeah, but we're not a funk band. And I'm like, I know, but this is a funk song. So we got to learn how to make it a funk song. And so it was actually really fun. We put together like a YouTube playlist and Spotify playlist and like all funk songs. And we just went down the rabbit hole of listening to like Parliament, Funkadelic, and George Clinton, and all these greats like Sly and the Family Stone, all this wonderful old funk music to be like an inspiration for the song that I had written. I was like, I know we're not a funk band, but that's what this song wants to be. So when you ask me like what kind of music it is, it's folk Americana. But again, I really like to explore the different sounds and different musical styles and just kind of see what variety we can come up with.
Okay, I give you one ticket, and you can see any artist, living or dead, but they can only have an acoustic guitar and a microphone.
Oh, see, now this changes everything. Okay, all right. And because of the way you frame this question, I'm gonna go ahead and say Jerry Garcia. He's the guitar player and singer from the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Don't trust me, I know.
Yeah, and the only reason I would say that is because that's not a thing that he would ever do, is just play like just him and an acoustic guitar. At least as far as I know, that's not a thing that Jerry ever did. He just always had musicians around him. And I was too young. I love the Grateful Dead, but Jerry died when I was like 15 years old, so I never got to see him live. And so when you say living or dead, I'm like, oh, I gotta do that. But I would also say that I would love to see Bob Dylan with just an acoustic guitar, just an acoustic guitar and a microphone, because that's also not a thing that Bob Dylan does anymore. And I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan, but like he always plays with a band. I've never seen him not play with a band, so that'd be pretty cool.
I think I'd have to go with Marvin Gaye.
Oh, that would be so good too. When I thought the question was just going to be one artist, living or dead, and for sure I would say Michael Jackson.
Not with an acoustic. Here's
the thing about that. I love acoustic guitar, and I love just the single voice and the acoustic guitar. It's just a good song and a good voice or whatever. But I also love the show. You know, it's called show business for a reason, and like Michael Jackson is the epitome. You know, he's the king of pop. He's not only has the great songs. You can take Michael Jackson songs and strip them down to just an acoustic guitar, and they are real and raw and vulnerable, dope, and all the ways. But really, it's like the show, man. He's such a spectacular performer. He would have been like my number one artist to see.
I could see Bob Dylan too. The Jerry Garcia one, I can't say that I've ever heard him like. I think the songs were more important than the singer.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The Grateful Dead is a 5-piece unit essentially, and like you kind of need all of the components in order for the whole thing to work.
How important during the recording phase is chemistry?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, in terms of making music, it is everything. I mean, I guess it is possible to work with somebody that you don't vibe with. Like, you know, it happens, I guess. People work in the studio together, or you have professionals who are on the same label, and their label is like, we're going to put you in a room together or whatever. But I think that's like the beauty of music, is exploring friendships through sound. You know, and we have moments in the studio together, or even on the stage together, where things happen and like everyone in the room feels it. Yeah. And you don't have to say anything. You know, like, oh, can you do that thing that you did? You just know, like, that thing, that's it. Like, do that.
Man, it's as, I guess it's no different than, you know, like a championship team.
Yeah.
Except you get to have more moments as a musician, I think, than winning the championship.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I was never really part of a championship team to really experience the pinnacle of success in that way. But I think you're right. I think being in a band it's a team first and foremost. And like, we are preparing for an event. You know, it's very similar to sports in that way. And there's like, you get to the end of the event and then you go back and watch the tape. And you're like, what can we improve on? What did we do not well? What can we do better? Like, there's definitely a lot of crossover there.
Your favorite show that you've done thus far?
I would say probably the Wheatland Music Festival, 2018. There were, I don't know, several thousand people in attendance, and it was like you know, I went to the festival when I was real young and just loved it. I thought, this is incredible. This is what I want to be when I grow up, you know. And so to be able to cross that stage and play for that audience, and also tell that story of like, you know, I've been coming to this festival from all these years, and to be able to be on a stage like this, I'll never forget that show.
Dopest person you've met.
Ooh. I mean, that's a pretty tough thing, but I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to my man Monk. He's here in Grand Rapids. He's an MC and primarily a DJ, but also he's a graffiti artist and a connector of. He's like a human Lego. He just connects people.
Gotcha.
So for his work as an artist and as a musician, as a community builder, we're gonna give Monk Recordings LLC.
Now that was fucking dope, bro. Okay, so who, as a songwriter, who have you studied and been like, man? Matter of fact, I take that back. Yours. Give me 3 songs you wish you had written.
Great, yeah. I'm gonna say. I think we'll say "Heal the World" by Michael Jackson.
Okay.
And "A Better Place to Be" by Harry Chapin.
Okay.
And man, it's 3 songs. I only got 1 left. This is tough. How about "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd?
Pink Floyd is fucking dope.
Yeah, man.
It was on some shit back in the day, to say the least. Okay. The Michigan Music Alliance. What exactly is that, and how long have you been the executive director?
Sure. The Michigan Music Alliance is a nonprofit organization. We're 501c3 and have been in existence since 2020. I came on early on as a grant recipient. So the Michigan Music Alliance was founded for professional development in the music community. Because as anybody out there knows, when the internet came around, the whole music industry changed. Right. And now with streaming services, the whole music industry has changed again. Like we are dealing with a rapidly evolving landscape in terms of how the music industry works. And one thing that became real clear is like, artists, we're not always about reading the books and doing the textbook work about, staying on top of all these changes. And so there was a real need for professional development and educational opportunities on how to actually have a career. So the Michigan Music Alliance was founded in 2020 to provide educational resources and networking opportunities. And then 2020, this big thing happened. All of a sudden, all of the musicians were out of work. And so the organization pivoted and became a fundraiser for out-of-work musicians. And that's how I found out about the Michigan Music Alliance. I was like, wait, they're giving away money to artists who are out of work? That's me. I'm an artist and I'm out of work, right? So I received a mini grant as an out-of-work artist in the COVID pandemic. And because of that, I was like, I want to help. I want to volunteer. I want to give back to this organization. So at first I was a volunteer, and then I joined the board. And eventually when our founder and original executive director stepped down, the rest of the board voted me to take over as the executive director. So I've been in that role for about 2 years now, coming up on January. This past year was our first year with it being like a paid position, which is a large part due to the work that the team has been doing behind the scenes over these years. And in addition to putting on obviously we did the fundraiser for musicians, but that's not what we do. What we actually do is provide educational and networking resources for musicians in Michigan.
Okay, so let's say I'm a young cat, the east side of Detroit. I got dreams of making it big. I want to come to one of your events because I want to network. How do I get in touch with y'all?
Sure. Right now, what we're planning on is, what we did this year, it's kind of the end of the year. So we're moving into our, what did we do? How did it work? And what should we do for 2026? So in this last year, we did 2 huge events, music industry conference style, one in Grand Rapids and one in Detroit. And then we also did these rotating industry lunch events, which are going to kind of morph into the industry mixes, because as it turns out, lunchtime. A lot of people are busy during lunchtime, so we're gonna shift our focus. The easiest way to stay on track of our events is to check out our website at the michiganmusicalliance.org. And we'll be releasing our 2026 programming calendar. But like I said, the plan is kind of the same. We're going to do an event in Grand Rapids in the spring, and then we're going to do an event in Detroit in the fall. And then there will be smaller kind of mixers throughout the state throughout the year.
Yo, I like the mixers. I don't know if you know Mikey X Time, but yo, he puts together all types of like kind of like networking events too. It's just so extremely useful, especially when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even a musician. I just talk shit in my basement, but I find a lot of people to talk shit with.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people out there, and the beauty of this, right? We can have this conversation. You're there, I'm here, and that's great. But you really got to get people in the room together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing more valuable than a face-to-face connection. And like when you are talking to people, when you get out in your community and hear what other people are doing, that's inspiring. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you're talking like, oh, so what are you working on? And then somebody tells you what they're working on. You're like, oh, damn, I want to be involved in that. Or I gotta do something, like I feel like the value of getting together with people, like, the music industry is one of these things, they call it DIY, do it yourself.
Yes.
You can't do this yourself. You have to have a community, and you have to have a network support system. So I don't think there's anything better than getting into a room with people.
Axl Rose or Steven Tyler?
Well, in terms of sheer power, I'd say Axl Rose, but in terms of longevity, Steven Tyler.
Guns N' Roses was just better than Aerosmith, though.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. Guns N' Roses is a phenomenal band. They had all of the pieces.
Like, their peak is better than Aerosmith's peak by a lot. Aerosmith's got them on a longevity, though.
They do. They've got some absolute classic songs. And Guns N' Roses is actually a great example of, like, I've said this before, I'm just talking about community. Like, you need a community, right? Like, and I don't understand how you can be an asshole and be successful in the music industry. But Axl Rose is a great example of that, of somebody who, they were just full of attitude. I don't know if you can get away with that anymore.
I think he got, if I remember the story correctly, matter of fact, Mikey again, I think he got into a fight with Tommy Hilfiger. Like, crazy shit. However, the bad boy rock and roll image was started way before Axl.
Oh, for sure.
He was just really good at it.
Yeah, and I guess, with that said, I'm happy to see that culture is changing in that way, and that the music industry is an incredibly historically misogynistic zone. It's not been a safe place for women or a place for the development, of female artists. And I'm loving the way the industry is shaped right now, where like women are at the top. When you say like Beyonce is as big as you can get. Taylor Swift has the biggest grossing tour of all time. Like, there are a lot of really powerful women in the music industry, but it hasn't always been so. So I guess in some ways I'm glad to see that there's been a lot of change in the music industry in that way, and that it seems to be less misogynistic and less closed doors for people. Maybe that's because of the internet. I don't know, but
like if Beyonce would like if Beyonce looked like Lizzo, would she be Beyonce?
Yeah, I completely agree. Our culture is ultra focused on youth and beauty. It's absolutely crazy. So one of the wonderful things about my music, where my music falls, is like I don't feel restricted by age. But if you're like a pop singer, if that is your genre, and even rock and roll and hip hop and country, like a lot of the really big popular artists, they're young. They are very young people, and our culture, our society has put this this precedent on youth, as though like you're a better songwriter when you're younger, or but you're maybe a better dancer. I don't know, but
You
But
look
it's
better.
a little bit weird about how obsessive we are and how our pop stars look the same and our country singers look the same. And like, it's weird, man.
Well, you have people that have no talent whatsoever musically making music decisions. Uh, that hasn't changed. It's just gotten so, in my opinion, not being outside looking in, has it gotten worse over the years? I ask you.
I think yes and no. I think that yes, I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people who are, it's easier for them to look at the bottom line
Mhm.
than it is for them to just, pick out an ascending arpeggio. Like they don't know anything about music. What they
Right.
know about is math and numbers and profitability and marketing. And, those are all valuable things, but that's why the music industry has been such a historically like a ripe garden for ripping off artists like that. It's because we don't want to do any of that stuff. And the guy who's really good with the numbers, he's not over there making the art. He's over here doing the numbers. And what's happened in the music industry is there used to be all this money and all these big jobs and all these people have these big corporate offices, and they don't want to give that up. So in the meantime, they've cut out the person who's scouting for talent. They've cut out the rep who took a chance on this band, and they've cut out so many portions of the music industry that you essentially have to already be successful now or somebody who's in power will even look at you. So the music industry is still driving, or I shouldn't say the record companies are still driving the music industry, but they're chasing it now instead of creating it. So executives are now looking for who's already successful, who's blowing up on TikTok, and then they go get them and see if they can exploit them as much as they can.
Yeah, there's a litany of those examples of people that got viral on TikTok but can't show up, can't sell out a show in Milwaukee.
Right. Well, that's it. Like virality is not success.
Yes.
Right. That is that even if you can get a viral video, let's say you release a video and not like a music video, just a video, and it blows up and you wake up in the morning and you've got like 3 million streams. That doesn't mean you have 3 million followers or listeners or fans. It just means that many people, it came up in that many people's algorithm. And I know a lot of people who have gone viral and they don't know how they went viral and they don't know how to go viral again.
Yeah. You have to be prepared for success.
Right. So that's another thing that I've talked to a few different people over the years who basically said that, they had a good thing going. When that call came, when the actual call came, they weren't ready. And it doesn't come again. You know what I mean? Like when you have a song and it's blowing up and it gets picked up on a TV soundtrack or like a television commercial, maybe something, or it's blowing up on TikTok, and somebody calls and says, hey, we need an opener for this tour next month.
It's got to be a yes.
It's got to be a yes. And if you are like, well, I got this job or I have kids or I have
got to be a yes.
Yeah. And that's not anybody's like fault necessarily. It's just the way that the industry works is like the opportunities are few and far between, and there just aren't like record reps sitting at the bar watching your band. They're going to come up to you after the show and be like, all right, let's go make a record now. Like you have to make your own success, which if you do that with purpose, you will be prepared for when that call comes, and you will know what to say to the person on the phone who's trying to tell you, oh, I can make you a star and I can we'll fly you out to New York. And like, if you know how to answer those questions and ask the right questions back, then you're in a much better position.
Is there an indie artist out there of today that you look at and you say they get it?
I'm a big fan of Billie Eilish, not because of the music, but because of the attitude that she has about the music industry. And if you dig into it, Billie Eilish comes from the industry. She kind of grew up in the industry, I guess. Okay. But it's different than being signed to a label and having label support. Billie Eilish is kind of known for like making music in her bedroom that is topping the charts. And just recently she was awarded, I don't know, some award that rich people get because she's rich now. And she's standing in this room full of rich people after she just made this huge donation to charities. And she's like, hey, so, it's cool to be rich and all, but there are a lot of people in this room who are a lot richer than I am. And if you are a billionaire, why are you a billionaire? Give your money away. And I just love hearing that from her of like, there are a lot of people in this world who are struggling.
Yeah.
It makes sense for you to have it all and to not contribute it back into our society. So I love seeing, at first when it came along, it was scary to all the record execs because they're like, a #1 hit from an artist who's not signed to a major label. We don't know what to do. But I think what happened is that kicked the door open for a lot of people who were all of a sudden like, I don't need a record label if I can do this on my own. And I love that attitude.
I don't see the need, and I'm not an artist, but they've given you the possibility.
Yeah. And I sound like I'm like mad at record labels or that record labels aren't a good thing. And I just want to clarify that like a record label can be the greatest thing that could ever happen to a musician. If you find a record label that has some sort of stability and they have, there's a rep there that believes in you, that can be the thing that makes, that takes you from being a mid-level band or whatever to being like highly successful. It's still an important part of the music system. I just don't want to see anybody taken advantage of anymore.
I don't think the record labels can actually operate without doing that. It's in their DNA.
I don't think you're wrong necessarily because of the way the industry, evolved.
History has spoken.
I would agree. The contracts are written down. Like we can go back through them and see how many bad contracts there were for artists out there.
And over
and over.
Yes, doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't even matter what fucking language you speak. Because there's some Spanish motherfucker down there in Mexico that should be rich. That is not. Some prick in New York screwed him out of his money. I guarantee.
In fact, it was probably easier to screw over foreign language artists with all the lawyers talk in these 200-page contracts. They're like, at the end of this contract, there's a line where you sign, and then we give you $500,000, and you're just like, skip to the end, give me this contract.
Here's the advice: if you see in perpetuity, don't sign it.
Don't sign anything that says in perpetuity.
That's forever.
That's forever. That's what
that part right
I try not to give away. I try not to make legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I don't. But that's good advice. Don't sign it.
I'm just an old fat guy in my basement. Gonna pay somebody to get that free advice anyway. Okay. So here's a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show. Has absolutely nothing to do with nothing, but here goes. Okay, you're sitting on a park bench. And God sits down next to you, and he or she says you can ask them one question. What would it be? See, that's the look I go for every time.
So I guess what I would like to know is if we, if we as human beings have all of the necessary tools to live. There's more than enough food. There is more than enough warmth on the planet. There's enough water for everybody to drink and all the living things. If that all exists naturally, why did we choose this system where we tear all of that down, build everything artificially to keep all of that out so then we can pay to pump it in through this system of dollars? And what would it look like if this wasn't our system, right? This whole entire financial system. What if we just like took money out of the equation? Like, what would that look like?
It would look like America before it was America.
Yeah,
it would look like, and this is respectfully, but it would look like Africa before Europe found it.
you're so right about that. That there are so many, in terms of Native Americans. There's so many different tribes, thousands and thousands of tribes. People forget about America, how big it is. We just think of Native Americans as one group, but it's the same like throughout Africa, right?
Yeah.
This huge continent, continent with all of these people and all these different languages, all these different ideas about how to build, how to harvest water, how to supply food, how to cook, what things you can eat and what you can't. And like we decided somewhere along the line that like money and paper was the thing that was the gonna eat, that made everything work. And I don't believe that I don't think it's like working like that. So yeah, I'm very like, I don't want to say I'm anti-capitalist, because I'm not. I work for a nonprofit organization, and as a musician, I'm a business. I make money. I wonder about our system, and like, is this the best system? This is the system that we think is the best system.
I think that no matter what system you use, you'll have some people that come along and are better at that system than everybody else. So 1,000 years ago, there was some motherfucker in Nigeria that had 800 million cattle. I'm not sure why, but he just acquired a lot of this shit. However, the requirements of him from the community made sure that, yeah, you may have a little bit more, but we're going to all eat.
Right.
And we've lost that aspect.
Right.
So it's just it's getting worse.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm a musician, and so we've always come from a place of scarcity. That there's something about being an artist. When you choose to pursue art, you understand that there are hardships involved in that.
Yes.
And I got rid of the starving artist mindset a long time ago. I'm not actually a starving artist. One of my favorite things to do is eat at restaurants. I love food. I really do. So I feel like if I'm doing well enough where I can eat good food and even go out to eat at restaurants and stuff, that's a pretty good marker that I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And really, again, as a musician, I had this like epiphany years ago. I was like, I think I own a business. Like I think this is a business. And it turns out, yeah, absolutely, it's a business. You have sales and invoices and expenses and reports, and it is absolutely a business. And once I decided that I'm a business, I own a business, well, maybe I should learn about business. And once I started learning about business, then I started seeing where you can make money as an artist and how that can work. And once I started doing that, I decided I want to help other people, because I know that it's possible to live off of your art if you go about it in a way where you're being intentional and you're making sure that you're covering your bases. I will also say there are way easier ways to make money than with music, but it is possible.
Okay, I come to you. I've got a decent following. I love what I do. I've been doing it for a long time, and I've just had the same epiphany, but I don't know how to get. What's the first piece of advice you tell people?
One of the first things I would recommend is setting up an LLC.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's necessary for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but there are advantages and benefits to having an LLC. And the biggest one is that the IRS is going to treat you like a business.
Okay.
Then once you have your LLC, you open a business checking account. All of your business transactions are handled through your business checking account and your business finances, right? And then now what you have is a separation of your finances. This is how you can see how your business is actually operating. So when you get a gig for $150 or $500 or whatever it is, and then you pay out to your bandmates out of that, you keep track of that. You keep track of how many miles it took to get to the gig, how much money you spent on food, where you rehearse, how much you spend on rent for all of that stuff. And that is the components of your business. Like this is kind of stuff that a lot of people don't necessarily want to do right away. But once you set yourself up for success, that's how you're going to be able to see, okay, well, we traveled this far to this place. They paid us this much. yeah, I don't know if it's worth it again. And then you look and you're like, yeah, but we also made this much in the tip jar. That means those people loved us and we should go back.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just out here like, I don't know, that was a pretty cool gig, wasn't it? Like, yeah, let's do it again. But then you realize, like, oh, right, this is the place that didn't pay us at the end of the night. Or
We're losing money.
This is a place where we drank more than what the door coverage, you know what I mean? Like, these are business decisions. This has nothing to do with I liked that place and I want to play there. When you start treating it like a business, it's a lot easier to say no to things because they just don't make sense to you.
But so, does that turn you into the bad guy with like your band?
No, in fact, every band should have somebody that wants to be that guy, because a lot of the bands don't. So you become the hero in your band when you are the one who's like looking at the numbers and kind of doing the spreadsheets and stuff.
How do you decide who's in the band?
It depends on what the needs are. So I've been really fortunate in my life to early on, I linked up with a friend who is a producer. And so he owns a recording studio and we do a lot of work together in the recording studio. I've had a couple guys who have been in my band for many years because personality fits, the music fits, our voices fit together. And then we've had a lot of drummers over the years. And I've had some really incredible musicians, and I've had some really incredible human beings. We just haven't always found the right person to stick around for the long term. So when you're trying to find somebody new, that's always like the hardest thing, is trying to find somebody who can do the job, but then also like fits the vibe and is a cool hang that we're gonna go get burgers with.
Okay, so I've had a worst guest. But it's not even close. This person was just absolutely horrible. Just a horrible show on my part. I acted a whole ass because they pissed me off so fucking bad. It was just tragic. Is there a worse? And I don't want you to name anybody or anything like that. But is there like somebody that you've had in the band over the years that sticks out as like just unequivocally the biggest asshole? That's a yes.
Yeah, that's a yes. Right? That's a yes. Yeah, no, and I don't need to get into it, but we've dealt with some egos.
Oh my god, yo. Okay, looking back, was the ego justified though? Did they have the chops to back it up?
Well, no, and then that ultimately was the issue. Is that it wasn't so much that that we didn't get along as people. It was more of, it was like, hey, this wasn't great. You know, let's listen to the tape or let's watch this, and being met with an attitude of like, I'm too good for that, or I'm better than that. I don't need to listen to the tape, or I don't hear.
I told you I was better than
here.
Everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You know, it's a business of relationships, and like when you're in a band with somebody, you don't think about it. Nobody tells you this when you're like first learning how to play guitar. Like, oh, be careful who you're in a band with, because you're in a relationship with them, right? Especially if your band is successful, because it sounds cool. Like we're gonna make a record and we're gonna have a hit and we're gonna make a video, and then the video goes viral, and then the record label calls and you get that 2-week opening spot, and you go on the road with these dudes and you find out that you can't stand being in the same room as them. You can't stay in hotel rooms together. You can't, like that causes a big problem. And a lot of really successful bands have internal problems because they didn't have conversations early on about what success looks like. And like what the goals are for the bands. Like if you're in a band with somebody and you want to tour, and you're in a band with somebody and they do not want to tour,
that's a problem.
Yeah, you should probably talk about that, right?
I mean, why would you be in the band and you don't want to go anywhere?
Well, I think it's okay to want to be just to play music, right? Like I want to play music with my friends. I want to do a few gigs a year. We want to play at this festival or this venue. Maybe it's like, you only get the one gig per year, but it's your buddy's party. And like, I think it's okay to want to play music as a hobby. But I also think like if you're serious about success in music, then you should be really clear about that with whoever it is that you're playing with. It'll save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Yo, that's got to be torture. And and especially like let's say this is late 80s, and you are Van Halen, but y'all in a bubble. Now you hate this guy on steroids because now you can't get away from these people because the whole planet knows who you are. That's yeah.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I don't have that problem.
But there is always tomorrow, and you might.
That's true. And I said earlier, our society puts this huge precedent on youth and youth culture. I don't fall into that category anymore. But my niche, my spot where I've landed is much more in the folk music community. And folk musicians, they play.
They don't die.
Well, they play until they die.
The guitar is still on the casket, coming along. But yes, you put yourself in a very viable atmosphere for as long as you want to.
Yeah, again, it's a great song is always going to be a great song, and if you can you take a great song, just an acoustic guitar and a voice, but there's always going to be a place.
Is there happy folk music?
Oh yeah. There's folk music is all of the things.
See, I'm just thinking of some depressing ass shit. My dog just died. My wife cheated on me. My car broke down. Almost like it's like a more broken down version of country music.
Yeah, it's worse than that, man. It is like my brother murdered me so that he could steal my wife, and it's a dark and twisted genre. But that's where all these great songs come from, is all these stories that are embedded into the songs. That's one of the things I love about it.
Okay, Bob Dylan aside, folk music wise, like who do you just absolutely love?
I love Harry Chapin. He was a songwriter. His biggest hit was called Taxi. And then he had a big song, Cats in the Cradle.
That I heard of.
Yeah, Cats in the Cradle. I guess Cats in the Cradle was the biggest hit.
But that doesn't sound folksy though.
No, and his songs were recorded like with a full band.
Okay.
But he's just one of my absolute favorite songwriters that when I think about like how I fit in the folk community, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Say he played with a band, but it was more story-centric songwriting with folk acoustic instruments, mandolin and cello, and that's Harry Chapin is one of my favorite songwriters, and really that whole 70s era singer-songwriter rock thing. So like Jim Croce and James Taylor. Those artists, that's the kind of music that really speaks to me.
Okay, so how has your songwriting matured over the years?
Well, definitely time and perspective are a thing that come. Well, perspective is a thing that comes with time, right? So I want to think that I'm a much better songwriter now that I've had all of these years of life experience behind me. But I know that it's still a mystery, right? I've kind of said this before of like, well, who knows where songs comes from? Because I can make up a song for sure, right? Like you could just pick something and I can make up a song about it. But then there are also those days where I'll just be sitting here and all of a sudden like a line will pop in my head and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And then the second line just jumps out and you're like, oh man, yeah, I got to get a guitar right now. And I grabbed the guitar and it's almost like I instinctively knew what chord I was supposed to play to match up with those two lines. And then the next chord comes and then so does the third line. And like 10 minutes later, there's a song. It's finished. It's complete. And I can't necessarily feel like I did that. It almost feels like it came from somewhere else. And every songwriter I know has this experience that sometimes the songs just come to you and they are fully cooked and ready to go. and you just got to capture them. So that part of it is still as exciting as it has ever been. And I still get like geeked out about, I wrote a new song, and then that's like all I want to play for like a week afterwards is this brand new thing that I just created.
Yo, like this is, decades ago, but I used to rap. But I was like, I know exactly what you mean, because there are some things that I'd get the beat, and 10 minutes later, I got a whole song.
Right.
And then there's some other shit that it took me a year because I wrote it. I needed to write it as I felt it. Like, I could be at work, and that one line, for some reason, goes with a line 3 lines ago better than the one that I had 3 lines ago. And it's just like a musical puzzle that you're not in control of.
Yeah. I've got a song that I'm working on, and I say I'm working on, but I'm not. It's just a line and an idea that I had like 10 years ago, and I know it's going to land at some point, but I also think that maybe I kind of don't want to write the song, that I'm afraid that I got this great line and then the rest of the song hasn't come yet, so I don't want to force it and ruin it. But also, like, I know it just keeps coming back every once in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should write that song about my grandpa. No, not yet.
So I don't know if you've ever seen this video. It went viral, but it was this old white guy. Well, I'm saying old, about my age. He's looking at this spool of electrical wire. And it's like, you could tell it used to be a shitload of it. Well, actually, he says it in the video. He's like, some lady's asking him, I guess it's his wife, whatever. He's like, this, I've had this for like 30 years. And I'm down to the last bits of it. And it just put my life into perspective. I don't paraphrasing. She was a complete jerk about it. But it's kind of the same thing. I get that feeling from you for that particular song. Like, I don't know if this is my life song. Somebody else may need to finish this.
It's possible. And gosh, what a great legacy to leave behind. Like unfinished work that other people would want to then like craft and finish.
How dope is that? Some kid in 50 years digs your song up and says, yo, to his friends, this shit is fucking dope.
Right.
We need to do this.
Yeah, for real. And I think about all the stuff too, like the Prince vault, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of unreleased Prince material. And this is all stuff that Prince was like, this isn't good enough, I'm not putting it out. And even after his death, he's like, I don't want anybody to ever hear this. But at the same time, like, that exists. You can't tell me there's not a ton of good stuff in the Prince vault somewhere. At some point, some of that's got to come out, right?
Some museum in 1,000 years is going to unearth Prince's whole catalog and revolutionize shit all over again.
I know. It doesn't matter what year it is or what era, Prince would revolutionize any.
I think the person who understood the assignment musically the most for me was Tupac.
Yeah. I'm a huge Tupac fan. That I grew up listening to hip hop. One of my earliest favorites was Run DMC and the Beastie Boys.
Yes.
DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Underrated.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this was good stuff. But then when Dr. Dre, Snoop, Tupac all came along, that changed everything, right? So I remember listening to Tupac and hearing like Brenda's Got a Baby for the first time. And you know, it was like, I mean, this is hip hop. This is definitely hip hop, but this is not the Sugar Hill Gang. You know, this is not the Beastie Boys. Like, this is not party music. He is talking about real stuff. And even to this day, there are Tupac lyrics that come to me all the time. And they say it's funny, when it rains and pours, they got money for wars, but can't feed the poor.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like, that is real life,
man.
And then to make it even worse, the politicians are trying to tell him this music has no place in our society. And he's like, this is a reflection of our society. And he couldn't have been more right. That with historical context, you listen to the music and you listen to stories. He was not just a documenter, he was a prophet and a poet.
The problem is that the more aggressive era of Tupac got duplicated way too much.
Yeah.
And that's what C. Dolores Tucker was trying to prevent back in the day.
Yeah.
So I think both parties were right, because I'm 53, so I've kind of lived long enough I've seen hip hop from the embryo to currently, and she was right to a great extent. She just went about it the wrong way, and nobody has truly gotten the traction to talk to the brothers like that. And she just did a horrible job at it.
Yeah.
Her heart was in the right place. She just was the wrong messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that he put out so much work, and he knew, like, in his heart and soul, he was only here for a limited amount of time, and he took advantage of that. That, for me, like, when people talk about Tupac versus Biggie, it's not close, because Biggie, it was a job. Tupac, it was a life. Completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm. If you're asking me, I'm definitely more of a Tupac fan. That's clear. But I love Biggie too, and that was like a life shattering thing for me. That, you know, these guys were my heroes. This was music that I was listening to. That the moment that Tupac came out with a new tape, we would get it, and like. I still remember where I was when I heard the guy on the radio say that Tupac had been shot in Las Vegas and was in critical condition. And we drove straight to my buddy's house and turned on MTV to catch MTV News to see if they had any updates. And the update was that Tupac died. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, how this is all real? Like they're really mad at each other. They're really killing each other. It was unsettling, and you know, a lot of people remember. They say they know where they were when John Lennon was murdered, or some people my age and in my friendship zone were like Kurt Cobain and Nirvana was a big thing. But for me, it was Tupac. When Tupac got shot, that changed everything for me.
Yo, Kurt Cobain was dope.
For real. Kurt Cobain is another human being. He was not capable of handling success.
He was not.
That he is a perfect example of somebody who was skyrocketed into the limelight and was never prepared for it and wasn't taken care of. He didn't have the right people around him, and not to throw his bandmates under the bus, but like his record label and his family.
I will throw them niggas under the bus, because your band fucking failed you, bro. They knew you had issues beforehand and did absolutely nothing and treated it like you should just get the shit together. They owe you an apology. And you got some of the most talented motherfuckers ever to play in a rock band. I'll give you that. But they did you a complete disservice.
Yeah, it's real sad to think about what any of those artists could have done, from Jerry Garcia to Kurt Cobain to Tupac. That I would have loved to have had a lifetime of music with those artists.
Although the tragedy is the treasure. It just gives them a certain. You can't be very, 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 very talented without being very tortured, in my opinion.
They do seem to go hand in hand.
You know, and that's not a price I'm willing to pay.
Well, I'm certainly not really willing to sacrifice my my cushy life here, where I eat at restaurants and have a cell phone, you know, with the internet on it, and you know, we our quality of life as human beings right now in this moment is pretty good. You know, yeah. Regardless of where you're at as an artist, we don't, you know, we don't sleep outside, and we don't have to run water through rocks and sand to get it clean to drink. You know, you just turn on the faucet and the water comes out, and you turn on the TV and you forget about your life for a while. So
yeah,
I enjoy my modern conveniences, and I prefer not to live a life of a tortured artist.
Yeah. I just, you know, hey,
I just want to be a good songwriter, man.
hey, God bless y'all. You know, I like turning on the lights. It helps.
And I want to help other artists because I do know how hard this career can be, and I know how difficult, like, I shouldn't say I know how difficult success is, but I can see how difficult it is and how unprepared so many people are for it. So if we can get, if we can get some people thinking about themselves as a business, as in a career, and they can protect their, their art and their ego and their what makes them them, and separate those things out, then we're preparing people for success in the long run.
Yo, I cannot possibly think. It's been a dope ass conversation, man.
Yeah, man, this has been great talking to you.
I can't possibly thank you enough. If there's anything that I can do for you in the future, man, let me know, and I got you. Before we go, is there anything you want to say to the people? Anything you want to promote? Anything that I did not ask you that I should have?
No, man, you did a great job. This has been a fun interview. I do want to say thanks to Karita, the lady with the golden ear, for hooking me up with this interview. I worked with Karita a number of different times with the Michigan Music Alliance, and she is an artist manager and is like looking out for the artists. And there are not enough people in this world like her. So thank you. Shout out.
Absolutely the best manager in the history of man and jurors. Shout out to you, Rita. On that note, man, we out of here, man. You have a phenomenal evening on purpose. This has been a privilege of mine. Thank you so much, Nicholas Thomasma, and the rest of the Thomasma lineage. Y'all have a dope ass day on purpose. This is Jobs.
Right,
another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio. We out. Peace.